Hey everyone, and welcome to Govinda's Garden. Today is a beautiful wet morning on March 2nd, and I wanted to just share with you a little project that we've been working on, and it's right over here. This bed that used to be a huge growing pile of dirt that was accumulated from all the digging that we've done over the past year and a half. Like this whole area is covered in wood chips, but there are, I think, around 30 trees that were planted. So we had to dig a lot of holes to put the trees in. And then, as you may have seen in the last video, we recently put this greenhouse together, so there was some digging involved there. And where we live in the western North Carolina area, we have pretty clay heavy soil. So we had this huge pile of dirt that was piling up that had these huge like clay clumps that were hard to break up, and I wasn't sure what to do with it. I didn't want to, haul it away. So I just kept it in this area back here and kind of did some composting, put some food scraps in there every once in a while. But during the winter I was doing some cleanup and decided to kind of do something out of this piled up dirt. So I did my best to flatten, kind of break up these clumps. Like you can see something like this. Well, it's wet now, so it's a little better, but this type of stuff, when you dig and when you try to remove like clay heavy soil, you get these clumps. So I did my best to try to break those up with a hard rake. That was pretty tedious. So I went to the tool library, which is a resource we have in town where you can rent tools instead of buying them. So super helpful if you're on a budget. A lot of like DIY projects and like bigger gardening projects and carpentry require tools that you probably don't have, or at least I don't have. And it can get expensive to work on those projects, like if you're buying tools. But we have this place where you can rent tools. So I rented a cultivator, aka a tiller, and that T word is kind of has a negative connotation in kind of the organic gardening community, from what I understand, or from what I've seen, like the whole no-till movement. And I know tilling disrupts the life in the soil, but I used it lightly on top of that dirt pile to help me break it down and flatten it out, because I wanted to grow veggies in there and grow plants in there, and it would be helpful if it was flat, and those clay clumps were kind of broken up so roots could more easily grow into them. So I rented a cultivator and I ran it over the top of this mound to flatten it out. And then I got a bunch of wood chips. We had some wood chips left over from our last chip drop, and these were already like semi-decomposed. So I laid a layer of wood chips over just temporarily to cover the soil. What I've learned is that soil does not want to be uncovered. So when you leave soil open in open air, it dries out. It creates a less fertile environment. So covering soil is like pretty much always a good thing, from what I understand, whether it be with wood chips or some type of ground cover. But soil will naturally cover itself with things that we might call weeds or like unwanted grasses. But anyways, what I did was I got wood chips over it, and then I talked with a local gardener, and she recommended planting peas and actually using this bed for multiple crops throughout the year. So peas take approximately 60 days from seed to harvest. Right now we just started in March. We planted in this bed 2 days ago on the last day of February. So March, April, by May, if all goes well, we should be harvesting peas. And then May is also a good time to start sweet potatoes. So the plan here is to, the plan was to plant peas and then harvest the peas and then use the bed again to start sweet potatoes around May. So I just looked up kind of how to grow peas, and there were directions on the seed packet. I found a variety that was recommended by our gardening friend and planted 3 rows of these Green Arrow shelling peas. And peas are also nitrogen fixing plants, so that should add more nitrogen into the soil and make it a fertile environment, a good growing medium for the sweet potatoes that should go in May. But yeah, so basically this was a huge dirt pile, semi-compost, had some weeds in it and stuff, and I used a rake and a cultivator to break down the clumps of clay, flatten it out a little bit, covered that all with some wood chips for a couple weeks. And then here, these rows are about 12 inches long, and this soil here, if you're a gardener, you're probably looking at this and your mouth is watering. This is leaf compost, decomposed, very nice. So we put a layer in there, probably about 3-4 inches thick, and then planted the peas straight into the compost. Underneath the compost is the natural clay heavy soil, which also contains a lot of good nutrients, minerals. So we're hoping that the peas can root into the compost and then eventually root down into the natural soil and you know, start growing. Yeah, so also this compost here that we're seeing is, you can see behind me here, I have a few more bags of it. This was acquired from a local, I'm gonna call it a government mulch yard. We found a resource where we can access decomposed leaves, some wood chips, and some pure compost. And you know, this was a huge find for us because compost and soil is quite expensive, and you need a lot of it if you want to grow food. So I just mentioned that because I want to encourage you, if you're interested in growing, to kind of look for like government, you know, local municipalities that may offer some like organic materials like wood chips, leaves, compost, things like that. It might exist. I didn't know it existed until very recently, so I was happy to find that out. But yeah, I just want to share this little project with you as we head into spring. It's a very exciting time for growers everywhere, and yeah, I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, give it a like, leave us a comment. I love getting comments, and that encourages me to continue making these videos. So all right, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.